Okay, so I would like to welcome everybody to this afternoon's session. If I can just take my mask off because. Okay. So it's the Poseidon II paving the way to the LNG bunkering in Cyprus. We have a panel discussion after the three initial welcome speeches and also a small, the two welcome speeches and a small presentation from Mr. Solomonidis. So firstly, I would like to invite Ms. Thanos, Acting Permanent Secretary of the Shipping Deputy Ministry, on behalf of the Shipping Deputy Minister to the President to make her welcoming speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here today in order to address this event with such a prominent theme that aims to promote widely the adoption of the LNG fuel for the shipping industry. The world interest is nowadays focused on the Glasgow meeting of COP26. The Shipping Deputy Minister attended COP26 last week and took part on panel discussions organized by the International Chamber of Shipping in Glasgow. If we to state the objective of that meeting in another way, the aim was to bring together government, industry representatives, and key stakeholders interested in driving action to promote a significant increase in global innovation in the shipping and energy sectors so as to reach net zero shipping. The climate crisis is one of the greatest economic and environmental challenges our societies have ever faced, and international cooperation is the only solution to global problems of this magnitude. The shipping sector is not only open and constructive, but also contributes to the discussions at the COP, the IMO, and the EU. Financing the energy transition of shipping and the investments in low and zero carbon fuels are key for the competitiveness of the sector and have to be addressed as a matter of priority. Hopefully, the Poseidon Med II project will play an important and positive role in making this transition of shipping sector as smooth and efficient as possible for ships trading in the Mediterranean region and establish ways to use LNG in an optimal manner. We are all aware and agree that the sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxide, and greenhouse gases emissions are not only harmful to human health, but also contribute to the global warming. In this respect, the shipping industry shall contribute its fair share towards the reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions and comply with the legislative initiatives that have already been adopted or are under discussions to be adopted in the near future by the International Marine Organization and/or the EU. At IMO level, during the last MEPC 76, the amendment to MARPOL Annex 6 has been adopted, which includes new requirements related to the reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions. At the European Union level, there are many other legislative initiatives that are under preparation, which cover a wide spectrum of areas. Some of the new initiatives that are included in the Fit for 55 packages are the inclusion of the shipping sector within the scope of the directive on EU emission trading system, the Fuel EU Maritime, which imposes gradual reduction limits on greenhouse gas intensity on the energy used on board, the taxonomy regulations, which establishes criteria for determining whether an economic activity qualifies as environmentally sustainable. Undoubtedly, LNG is one of the options which is currently available and considered to have significant advantages, both from an environmental and economic perspective, as well as availability and energy efficiency point of view. The emission reductions using LNG partly comply with the current IMO policies and targets. Being the cleanest fossil fuel currently available, it has virtually no sulfur content, and its combustion produces low nitrogen oxide and moderate carbon dioxide compared to conventional fuel oil and marine diesel oil. It is well known that the LNG as a carbon-based fuel provides significant emissions reductions and an up to 23% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions on a well-to-wake basis, provided that no methane slip is occurred. However, at present, it is considered to be a transitional fuel towards the net zero decarbonization efforts. The LNG fuel initiatives are largely regional. Existing technology with dual fuel engines in use on LNG carriers, coastal vessels, and ferries in Europe has proven that regional projects are not only feasible, but also successful. Infrastructures for LNG bunkering are vital but complex. Currently, as you know, there is a lack of availability of bunkering infrastructure in the East Mediterranean region, and I believe one of the activities of the Poseidon Med II project is to study and prepare suggestions for this aspect. Concluding, I would like to congratulate the project partners for their commitment and hard work in making such an ambitious project a reality. Congratulations and keep up the good work.
I'd like to thank Ms. Tanos. I would like to invite Mr. Bolokroniou, who is the Poseidon Med II project manager and, of course, the executive director of strategy and business development at DEBA Commercial SA.
Thank you, Nicholas. You just heard about the challenges shipping is facing towards decarbonization, and there are increasingly stricter environmental targets in this pathway. I have to remind you that when Poseidon Med II program started, the main aim of the program was to face and answer the question of the restrictions regarding CO2, sulfur emissions. And there, the answer was LNG, because LNG was providing no sulfur emissions. But things are moving very fast, and decarbonization targets have entered in the discussion, and the restrictions are moving very fast. Many people are saying that there are several alternatives towards decarbonization. I'm saying that right now, LNG is the only alternative towards decarbonization. Many people are saying also that LNG is just a transition fuel. And so why not waiting for permanent solutions and use LNG, which is just a transition solution? This is not true. It's, of course, a viable and effective solution for the short term, but it is also a viable and effective solution also in the longer term, having in mind that in the form of bio or synthetic LNG, the same infrastructure can be used, and mixes of LNG with its variants, biosynthetic LNG, can provide a very flexible solution in during all this path towards decarbonization. The challenge of introducing LNG in shipping is more important in our area, and more particularly in Cyprus, since here there is not only LNG in small scale which needs to be introduced, but LNG, or generally natural gas, is not yet in place. It will be introduced in the Cyprus energy system after many years of efforts in the immediately following period, in the beginning of 2023. To address this challenge, the EU has offered its valuable contribution with the funding of 3 important projects in which Cyprus was directly involved and which are integral parts of the same supply chain, of the same chain. Firstly, Synergy, which has set the foundations for the introduction of natural gas in the form of LNG in Cyprus. Then the Cyprus Gas to EU project has entered in order to materialize what was designed in Synergy. Second, the Poseidon Med project, the project we are talking about today, has been the cornerstone for the perspective of using LNG as marine fuel, not only in Cyprus, but in the whole East Med. In Cyprus, the scope initially included the design of the necessary storage and loading facilities in the Limassol port, as some of you remember. Currently, focus is given to the design of the necessary additional infrastructure in the vicinity of the FSRU jetty to allow direct loading of LNG bunkering vessels directly from the FSRU. And third project, main project, is Blue Hubs, the most important element of the LNG supply chain for shipping. An LNG bunkering vessel to allow not only bunkering operation, but also distribution of LNG in smaller scale in the whole island. We are very pleased today to be here with this today workshop to hear in more detail the developments in our area and to hear about the perspective of LNG, of the use of LNG for bunkering, not only in Cyprus, but in the whole East Med area. Thank you very much, and I am waiting also for the panelists to hear in detail what it will be mentioned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Polychroniou. We have a short video that we want to show you. It's actually quite interesting. Let me see if I can get this to work. 1 second.
Poseidon Med II is a key European project. It is guiding marine transportation into the LNG era. Over the past 4 years, it has been setting the pace for the adoption of LNG as marine fuel in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea from 2020 onwards. Poseidon Med II is making Greece an international marine bunkering hub for LNG in Southeast Europe. 26 partners from Greece, Italy and Cyprus are working together to develop the role of LNG in marine transportation. The LNG-powered fleet is growing. More than 400 LNG-fueled vessels are currently in operation or on order. LNG bunkering is expanding, encompassing major ports in Europe, including Barcelona, Rotterdam and Antwerp. LNG contributes to the reduction of CO2 emissions and the negative impact of heavy fuel oil, and sets the path to achieving the 2050 greenhouse gas emissions targets. Poseidon Med II secures availability and a sustainable and effective LNG supply chain in the East Mediterranean. It is setting up the required infrastructure and LNG operations in the region, in the port of Piraeus and at other main ports in Greece and Cyprus. Revithousa LNG terminal holds a key geographic position and secures supply through a guaranteed storage capacity of 225,000 cubic meters. Revithousa is being prepared to offer small-scale LNG services through the construction of a small-scale LNG jetty for bunker and feeder vessels and a truck loading station. Poseidon Med II has designed the retrofitting of 10 candidate vessels to LNG-fueled vessels. It has prepared detailed designs for an LNG-fueled innovative new-build RoPax ferry and detailed designs for LNG bunkering and feeder vessels, while it is currently constructing an LNG semi-ballastable transporter in Venice, Italy. Poseidon Med II has assessed Greek shipyards' capability to undertake works for LNG-fueled vessels. In Cyprus, Poseidon Med II has paved the way for the development of a sustainable and fully functional natural gas LNG market to provide clean and affordable energy to the end user. Poseidon Med II has been laying the foundations for LNG bunkering at ports and the whole supply chain, which will be up and running by 2022 and co-financed by the EU. Poseidon Med II also facilitates the implementation of various requirements stemming from IMO regulations and EU directives, while contributing to the preparation of the regulatory and institutional framework for the implementation of LNG bunkering. The project has also contributed to the development of new port operation manuals and the adjustment of current regulations in the Mediterranean. The financial tools for the respective investments are being developed by Poseidon Med II. The project has supported significant financial assessments for port infrastructures and vessels installations, as well as assessments on pricing patterns. Poseidon Med II has set the course for LNG to become a commercially viable solution through synergy building and economies of scale. Poseidon Med II has brought the future closer. The Eastern Mediterranean is already on course for the LNG era, as Poseidon Med II prepares the way for cleaner, more efficient and sustainable marine transportation. With Poseidon Med II, we're already sailing into the LNG era.
I would like now to invite Mr. Solomonidis for a short presentation before the panel discussion. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a short presentation for Poseidon Med. Some things maybe you've seen before, and some information you saw already in the video. I represent Rogan Associates, a firm of consulting engineers and architects specialized for over 40 years in harbor works and ports consulting and waterfront development. Poseidon Med, maybe I skip the general things because you've seen it already. What is the role of Poseidon? It consists of 26 partners from all disciplines, led by DEPA and DESFA. The commercial part of the gas and LNG in Greece, and the network infrastructure, and also a lot of other either Lloyds or shipping companies, and also the ports, the main ports, and Rogan Associates, who is responsible for the infrastructure. The main goals and activities of the project, again, some of them you heard in the video, is ensuring supply through the establishment of the necessary infrastructure for LNG bunkering. Experts are carrying out a number of studies, like site planning, environmental, safety and engineering studies for the development of small-scale LNG infrastructure at the ports that Mr. Polychroniou mentioned already, which is the port of Piraeus, Patras, Igoumenitsa, and Iraklio in Greece, and Limassol moved now to Vasiliko in Cyprus, and also the Revithous LNG terminal. Also facilitating demand in shipping by starting 10 candidate vessels for retrofit, basic design for 5 vessels and detailed design for other 5, while there is the LNG semi-ballastable that the Italians do. Contribute towards the establishment of a regulatory framework to enable LNG bunkering. This includes the development of port regulations for LNG bunkering activities, adaptation of existing rules promoting LNG bunkering and developments of an efficient supply chain, and also the development of necessary financial instruments for the required investments. I won't go into the benefits and advantages of LNG. These have been already analyzed. Sorry. Now, the activities that have to do with infrastructure, I mean, my presentation is focused on infrastructure. So there are activities like updating the port's master plan, baselining engineering studies, preliminary engineering designs of the additional port infrastructure, final environmental studies, final construction engineering, and tender documents. These are the activities that are related to the infrastructure necessary in the ports. So already we've carried out a number of these studies, like for the Port of Patras, master plan updated, hazard study, site visits, workshops, wave disturbance studies, maneuvering simulation, the basic designs, final safety study, and so on and so forth. You can see the picture of the installation here. This is the land area with the C-type LNG tanks. There is a regasification unit, there is track loading, and there is also a jetty for the bunkering, for the feeder vessels and the bunkering vessels. The port of Igoumenitsa, similarly, there is an installation which has its own peculiarities as well, but again, the basic are the tanks and the jetty, the regasification unit, etc. The same number of studies have already completed in this port as well. And now we are at the, for both for Patras and for Igoumenitsa, we are in the finalizing the final designs for construction. Port of Piraeus, there's no additional infrastructure, but ship-to-ship and track-to-ship LNG bunkering operations are going to occur. So a number of studies were again required, but not really new infrastructure development. Port of Iraklio, similarly, I won't go into detail on that. The number of studies have been made. And coming to Limassol, initially, the port of Limassol was thought as to be the location of the LNG bunkering, the small-scale LNG facility, and this was here, located here. I don't know if the cursor is, let me just a minute. Okay, sorry. Now, it was initially located in this area, in the breakwater, in the main breakwater of Limassol port. A number of studies had been done for this area, like hazard study, which is a preliminary, let's say, safety study, site visits, the wave disturbance studies, etc., maneuvering simulation, geotechnical surveys, etc. Then later, the facility had to be relocated due to the privatization of the port. And the idea was to create a synergy with the other project, which was already financed by the INEA, which is the jetty at Vasilikos for the FSRU. So this is the jetty in its original shape. And the idea was to have the bunkering operation in Cyprus either as a ship-to-ship operation directly from the FSRU, or create adjacent to it a new berth, a new permanent berth on piles. So there could be a facility for bunker ships and vessel ships to come there and be fitted. There is no land installation foreseen for this area here, for this bunkering facility. So, for example, there is no truck loading at this stage in these designs, etc. And there is no, of course, LNG tanks, because there is the FSRU itself, so there's no need for LNG tanks. This was the original area, and then the original shape of the FSRU jetty. Now the FSRU jetty has gone beyond the Synergy project, and it is under implementation under an EPC contract. There have been some changes in the actual layout of the jetty, so we have adapted accordingly the designs. And this is the head of this LNG jetty. This is the area, the berth of the FSRU, and we can see next to it a LNG carrier berth next to it. And then on this side, at a certain distance now from what was originally planned, due to safety reasons, there is a continuation of the jetty, and then the creation of the new berth with its mooring, breasting dolphins, etc. This facility is planned to accommodate ships from 3,000 cubic meters up to even 30,000 cubic meters. So this was a small roundup of what has been done related to infrastructure under Poseidon II project. And that ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomonis. Can I invite the panel members to come up for our discussion? So obviously today's conference and discussion comes at a very important time for Cyprus and shipping in general, as we all work to reduce emissions according to European and international directives. We'll certainly get some very important insights today from this distinguished panel, and I think we can get straight into it. I'll start with Mr. Solomonidis. From Rogan Associates, of course, we have Simon Kassianidis from DEFA, Marios Dimitriadis from Fameline, and Zacharias from the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute. Thank you all for being here. So starting with Christos, I would like to ask, based on the work undertaken within Poseidon Med II and the other related EU-funded projects, how ready is Vasiliko in terms of infrastructure to receive LNG?
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you for this question, which links my presentation to a few more things that I would like to say on that. Of course, Vasiliko and Cyprus in general is now much more ready to receive LNG because there was nothing before that. Now, it's not only, this is not the outcome only of Poseidon, of course, as Mr. Polychroniou also said before. It's Poseidon Med, it's Synergy as well, and the Blue Hubs as well, because this covers, to start with, to get LNG into Cyprus, you need the FSRU facility. Okay, this is not Poseidon, this is Synergy. Synergy prepared the FEED design for the FSRU, jetty installation and so on and so forth. And Poseidon prepared anything that had to do with bunkering, which is the bunkering berth, the possibility for it to be fed directly by the FSRU and so on. And also you need the vessel, and the vessel is Blue Hubs. So for all of these, designs have been implemented. Regulatory framework is now in place, has been implemented as well. And also the ship designs, ships retrofits, etc. have been designed. And the infrastructure, of course, as well, that I said before. So yes, we are a lot of steps ahead now towards the direction of implementing LNG import in Cyprus.
Thank you for that. I mean, more specifically now on the shipping and the bunkering side, because as you know, I mean, shipping in general is up in arms right now regarding this transition. I think it was always about emissions. It wasn't about sulfur at any time. And I think the intermediate step in 2020 to get the sulfur down, I think it was leading right up to emissions that we are going to be paving the way forward into 2030 up to all the way to 2050. So what steps are going to be taken to develop LNG as a maritime bunkering fuel in Cyprus?
Well, the next steps are obviously the construction of what we had said. I mean, for example, the FSRU is the EPC contract that SAIGAS and the TIFA are already running, are already implementing. This is for the actual construction of the jetty and the ability for the FSRU to berth. The second is for the jetty designed by the Poseidon Med, the bunkering berth to be constructed as well, because you need that. You cannot have just bunkering directly from the FSRU, because in heavy weather, in heavy weather conditions, this cannot work. So you have to have a permanent and stable berth. Okay. Then next steps could be to create facilities, small tanks, and also truck loading facilities in other areas, as for example, when the Vasilikos port is going to be extended to the east, which is in the government's plans, then this could easily accommodate stations for the truck loading. When you have truck loading, then you can easily get to LNG into other uses apart from maritime, which can be done ship to ship, etc. It can get into industry, it has many uses. And then the next step, I suppose, is the creation of a gas network, gas now, not LNG, in Cyprus, in the whole of Cyprus. So I think this sums up all the next steps in order to adopt. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I'll move over to Simeon. And if I could ask, regarding the path to global low carbon economy entails short-term challenges. How do you see these challenges, and what is EFA's priorities for the next decade, starting from 2022 with the delivery of the infrastructure?
So, hello? All right, so thank you for the question. I think the EFA's part and the DFA's part and so forth, basically right now is focused on completing the construction of the LNG terminal. So without the LNG terminal, there will be no LNG. Without LNG, there will be no bunkering, there will be no change of the energy fuel and so forth. So the actual completion and startup of the LNG terminal is pivotal in order for everything else. Our focus in the last couple of years has been single-minded, let's say, in order to be able to complete this development. I think right now we are confident to say that we are in a path that the project has started, and basically we can see the path to completion. So, of course, timelines change, timelines modified. No one expected the pandemic, no one expected different things happening. Having said that, it hasn't stopped us from the planning and from the development. We are seeing that early, let's say, within 2023, there will be gas supplied for power generation. As part of that, also will be the development of the small section of the network for supply of gas to all the interested parties in the vicinity. We will call for an open season process to determine location, spatial location, allocations of quantities, and so forth. and we expect that early next year to complete and identify who indeed is interested and who will be making commitments for the offtake of gas. I think that this brings DEFA as a leader in terms of the energy transition for Cyprus, because as part of that, then we can start introducing the virtual networks, whether it is, let's say, introducing for industrial purposes, for transportation, and so forth. An important aspect which we have been discussing with regards to blue hubs is DEFA's cooperation in this area to explore how we can actually, DEFA has declared officially that there is the intent and interest to engage into bunkering as one of the activities. We believe that Cyprus is well poised, let's say, to have an active role and a main role in the East Mediterranean due to location, let's say, to support the bunkering function and provide a bunkering function. I think it's not unrelated with also what we have seen now here in Cyprus. You have a lot of the cruise ships coming. There's a lot of cruise ship movement. As I'm sure you well know much better than me, cruise liners are tending to favor LNG, so that provides for DEFA an additional market that can be explored. The details of the relationship and the discussions are ongoing, and we have been in communication, see many friendly faces around for a few months on and off. We have been held up by the pandemic because, as I said, the main focus was to start and get the project started. But now that the project has a path where we can actually see with a degree of confidence its completion, we will re-engage in the discussions to see how we can soon, maybe, hopefully, come to an agreement.
Thank you. And I think the next question is a little bit premature because the strategy is focused on importing LNG. But a question that is frequently asked is that if gas quantities do become available close to Cyprus, do you see them? Do you see it as being used domestically? If gas quantities are found close to Cyprus, if those quantities will be used domestically?
I guess I will change a little bit the question in the sense, because there are gas quantities that have been found close to Cyprus. So I guess if the question refers to will we be able to use our own natural gas reserves?
I think that's where everybody's alluding to, yes.
I think I can give a personal opinion because I do not speak for CHC, which is the appropriate, or the government to say that. I think that what we have in Cyprus, we have three characteristics that so those that are maybe more technically minded have to. It's a three-leg stool here we have, so that we need to address. We have deep water, which makes it expensive. Then we have basically the use of the quantities that are required in Cyprus are very little, right? And the third leg of the stool, let's say, is that the discoveries so far are small. They're not sizable to justify the development. So it's a challenge that there is a solution, but there are the appropriate committees and departments and so forth that are working to come up with a solution in order to be able to monetize the reserves. Once you're able to develop and monetize the reserves, of course, the gas company, the DEFA, will be more than happy to benefit from our own reserves.
The question does come up very frequently, and that's why I brought it up. I understand the reasons of what's inhibiting that sometimes.
I think a question that, as a follow-up to answer, DEFA or the government to my understanding, has never said that we will only have gas from an FSRU and we will only have it this way. We've had, we announced, how is in my talk earlier today, and you're all welcome to come tomorrow at 12:30 here. The effort to bring gas to Cyprus started in 2009.
Yes.
Right? So what we have been faced with is, let's say, the challenge of actually bringing gas, both for the benefit of electricity generation, et cetera, and also for avoidance of the penalties. Yes. We have been delayed. So once we have, we're talking now is 12 years. Huh? So basically what we've had is we have a strategy that solves the immediate needs of the Cyprus, of the Republic of Cyprus to introduce gas in the energy mix, and have taken all the provisions and possible in terms of our strategic planning to allow introduction of gas through other sources and other means. So if we have our own reserves, is one thing. If we are to take gas from Israel with pipeline, is another thing. All these things need to fit, but they're all driven by the demand. And the demand right now in Cyprus is very small. So.
Understood. Marios, if I can pass to you, Poseidon II is close to completion, and bearing in mind that the current developments in the energy and shipping LNG sector, could you please elaborate what projects you are working on currently, and also what are the prospects for Fameline Group to strategically promote LNG bunkering in Cyprus?
Okay. Let me first start by congratulating everybody who was part of Poseidon Med. I think that was a very significant project. I would like to state that Fameline has been part of many projects for the promotion of LNG in Cyprus, generally for the promotion of cleaner fuels. And I think this is basically a characteristic of the Fameline holding group. As you know, the European Union has been financing a number of projects to promote the use of gas in Cyprus. Of course, the most important one was the one that we got, we secured more than 100 million euros for building the necessary infrastructure for bringing the gas. I think Simeon stated very correctly that without bringing the gas, basically you cannot have the rest of the project. So I think that was a major project, and basically we're really happy that it's moving ahead, and hopefully in the first 6 months of 2023, as you said, we will have gas in Cyprus. Now, regarding the latest project that we're involved, a project that we heavily invested as a group through Navigas is, of course, the Blue Hubs project. We have here Mr. Polychroniou, who is our partner in Greece. I would like to say that the Blue Hubs project is a very important project, which, of course, has to do on one part for the introduction of LNG bunkering, and of course the second, the smaller part, is for the construction of some LNG infrastructure distribution on the ground. So basically, there are two member states which are part of the Blue Hubs project, Greece and Cyprus. In Greece, the main partner, of course, is DEPA, and to a lesser extent for the mobile and CNG infrastructure is Blue Grid. In Cyprus, the partner is Navigas. And this project, of course, involves two parts, I would say. The first part is the construction of the LNG bunkering vessels, one of them to be based at the port of Piraeus and one of them at the port of Vasiliko. And also the construction, the procurement of mobile LNG and CNG bunkering infrastructure at the port of Heraklion and at the port of Vasiliko. I think that this is a very important project. It's a project that really provides the opportunity for Cyprus to become an LNG bunkering center. If you allow me to speak about Cyprus, of course. It is a great opportunity for us. Don't forget that the European Union basically will not finance any further projects regarding LNG, as you probably know. So this is, I would say that it's a country subsidy. LNG bunkering, as you know, has been becoming more and more important. I heard of Mr. Polychroniou, I heard Mr. Solomonidis as well. At the moment, we have more than 600 LNG-ready vessels, and there are another 400 coming to be delivered within the next few years. Of course, it's true that LNG is widely used now for cruise ships, and Cyprus has managed to attract a lot of cruise ships lately in Cyprus, so I think it's quite important. And of course, LNG generally, it's very important to introduce it in Cyprus because it's a much cleaner fuel. I mean, it does has significant advantages to the heavy fuel oil. It was in the film that you showed before how much it decreases, of course, the emissions.
Absolutely.
So I think this is quite important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we all know what kind of emissions we are experiencing on the coastal cities of the European Union, and I think that's why there is so much dynamic movement for an ECA region within the Mediterranean Sea. Is there something more you can tell us about Navigas and the synergies there, or?
I'm really happy that Simeon mentioned it, basically, regarding the commitment, of course, or the interest, I would say, of DEFA to become involved in this project. I would like to say that for us, the natural partner or the natural party to implement this project is DEFA. DEFA is the organization for the promotion of gas in Cyprus. They have, of course, the monopoly for the next 10 years. They're the party that they're building all the infrastructure. We're really happy that we are currently in discussions with them to see how we can actually promote this project. I think, of course, this project is not only for interest for DEFA, which, of course, DEFA is becoming a semi-government organization, an extension of the government. I think it's a project of national importance. Don't forget that Cyprus, and we have here Ms. Haralambous, don't forget that Cyprus is a major ship management center, the major ship management center in the European Union, and we have the third largest fleet in the European Union. I think it's a project that really interests us to promote. It's part of the shipping community, it's part of the cluster, where it would be in the interest of Cyprus to promote such a project in Cyprus. I think it is quite important. And what I can say that over the last few months, of course, we have had the problem of the pandemic, like everybody else. We have been in discussions with DEFA. I would like to thank Mr. Solomonidis, his board, and of course the management of DEFA for keeping an open ear for this project and showing the interest they have shown. And I do believe that we have the opportunity with the right, of course, political will, because it's not only a matter, of course, of the interest and the interest that DEFA has shown, but also the right political will to back up this project, because these are the kind of projects, especially in a market like Cyprus where gas has not been introduced yet. Don't forget that gas has not come to Cyprus yet. So this would be like a pioneer project for Cyprus. So you really need the support of the government for this kind of projects to succeed. And I strongly believe that it is for the interest of our country for this project to be implemented. Just to say that I saw a survey today and that showed that basically that everybody believes that the interest for LNG fueled vessels will increase more and more over the next few years. And even though the main driving forces at the moment, of course, are regulatory compliance and social responsibility, other factors are becoming increasingly important. Thank you.
Thank you, Marius. Thank you very much for that. If I can move to Zacharias. Zacharias, we're hearing a lot about Fit for 55. What do you think the impact will be of LNG as a marine fuel in that scope?
Well, first of all, CMMI, the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, we are a research and innovation organization. We are funded by the European Union and the government of Cyprus, and we are very privileged also to work very closely with the industry and the government in this respect. So we are following very closely developments related to the decarbonization. We have our own researchers working on this with the industry, trying to help them. Definitely the Fit for 55 will accelerate this effort to move to the new energy in Europe, but at the same time to remind you that in this package the Commission is also calling for the Member States to consider the social impact. And we are all experiencing now the impact of what is happening in Europe now with the prices of fuels. So as Mr. Polychroniou said, we cannot wait really for the new technologies and the new fuels to come before we move forward. And therefore, the LNG as a transition fuel could be the solution we are looking for, so that we meet the very ambitious targets of zero emission. We already heard that a lot of ships are already investing in LNG as a fuel. And at the same time, we all know the challenges of all these new fuels that we hear. Technology is not yet available. It may take a lot of years before we really have the fuels with no carbon, and also we don't have yet the know-how, but we do have the know-how on running ships with LNG. So LNG could be this bridge solution towards the zero one. So we want to be practical and pragmatic, exactly because we work with the industry and work with them on these kind of solutions.
And my next question would be in continuation of that, because, you know, I mean, as a research organization, you must have, you know, a vision in terms of where you see generally the different stakeholders within Cyprus being positioned regarding the alternative fuels, because it's a debate that will ignite. It's not something for today. It's something for the next 8 years until we reach 2030, and there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of decisions to be taken. So what is your position on this?
Well, it is definitely something that we also identify very early. When we established the Institute, we realized that, first of all, the academic institutions and the research organizations in Cyprus have not realized these kind of challenges, especially for our industry. So we have now scientists working specifically on this. We have published papers. For the first time, a Cypriot institution has been working in this area, and that brought a lot of experiences also to my scientists, because they were coming from different backgrounds. But we also understand that we have to work all the stakeholders together in order to address this. And there was also a gap there. So what we recently did, we established what we named the Cyprus Decarbonization Hub, as a kind of a forum where we bring all the local stakeholders, but also international ones, trying to discuss and see what is available, because we will definitely need a mix of energy solutions for the eventual solution to the problem. So we started with this, and at the same time we understand that we will also face challenges when it comes to the skills of operators and the people who will handle all these new technologies and all these new fuels. So we are also trying to engage into developing the programs that we will need for the future operators and the future handlers of these new technologies, which we still don't know which are they. So
I think one of the key things you just said is that the stakeholders really need to work together. I think it's something that we didn't see in 2020 when we moved to 0.5, and the shipping community really suffered at the beginning and continues to be suffering in terms of quality issues, something that LNG will take out of that equation. And we really hope that the ambitious targets that have been put down by the European and international community are able to be met, at least to a certain point, through the use of LNG. I'd like to thank the panelists and your insights very much. If anybody has any questions at all, we can accept a question. Yes, I'll just...
Thank you very much for the introduction into Poseidon II, Med Poseidon II. I don't know which is the sequence of the words. I'm George Papanastasiou. I'm the VTT Vasiliko Managing Director. We are involved in many different types of fuels. We are in the area of basilicos, as you know. The one thing that it is not clear, though, we heard the technical solution of the project, and I'm talking not about the DEFA project, I'm talking about the Poseidon Med, is that in order for a project to be successful, it needs to have a seller and a buyer. I heard about the seller being the LNG supply, which is a monopoly, a state-owned monopoly. On the other side of the pipeline, which is the end user side, I haven't heard of any market. And because we know the market very well in the East Med, especially Cyprus is under a serious difficulty because of the embargoes, the illegal embargoes of Turkey, that bunkering has reduced seriously over the last few years. So could you please explain how this project can be justified in terms of investment, having a certain market which relates to what is available in reaching the end user, which is the LNG buyer, bunkers. I can tell you that over the last few years, bunkers have reduced seriously because of the implementation by Turkey. As we all know, the third leg of the illegal embargo of any vessel calling at Cyprus port cannot reach the biggest market in the region, the East Med, being Turkey. Thank you very much.
Of course, the limitations of bunkering in Cyprus are not and do not rest only with the issues regarding Turkey's embargoes. There are multiple issues why we don't have the quantities that what we all hope to. But regarding specifically for LNG right now, who would like to take this?
Hello. Let me see which one is working. I agree with you, George, that basically there are various or serious restrictions regarding bunkering in general in Cyprus. Of course, some bunkering takes place in Cyprus, as we all know. I have to say that we had a study commissioned not only when we submitted the proposal for the project, but we just had a recent study committed by some very good professionals regarding the potential of LNG bunkering in Cyprus. And I have to say that the results have been encouraging, without, of course, saying that this is a market without risks. And this is why when I answered the second question, I said, this is why you need, basically, for this kind of projects, the political support. Because there's definitely a great deal of risk in this kind of projects. So despite the encouraging results of a study, which of course is a study, for a party to introduce a new market with this kind of restrictions, you definitely need some kind of government support, or I would say the political will. So I think when you have to see this kind of projects, you have to see them in a wider spectrum, in a broader spectrum, and basically you have to place the wider goal. So if we are really committed to introducing cleaner fuels in Cyprus, I think being one of the major ship management centers in the world, and having the third largest fleet in Cyprus, and being so much involved in shipping, we really have to go for the commitment to support this project politically. And of course, the reason that you needed the political risk is to de-risk this project as much as possible. So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like again to thank everybody for coming here this afternoon. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.